Hey Amber, how are you?
Hey, Davin, doing wonderful. How are you? Good to see you.
I am doing well. I am fired up. I am so excited each time that we get a chance to talk to you and hear all the amazing stuff that you have going on is just so incredibly inspiring. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us today.
Absolutely. It's an honor and a pleasure. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
It is going to be powerful. And for those of you who are listening and tuning in, we are here with Dr. Amber Selking. She's the Vice President of Leadership and Culture at Lippert. She's also the mental performance coach for Notre Dame Football. And let me tell you what, you guys are in for an incredible treat today because she is a powerhouse of leadership, insight, inspiration, particularly when it comes to aligning purpose and performance. And so, wow, Amber, I don't even know where to begin with just how an amazing a story that you've had and where you're at and what you've done. But if you could, for those of who haven't met you that don't know you, please share a little bit of your story and your background.
Yeah, well, thanks for the glowing regards. I hope I don't disappoint anybody here. You're too kind. But I think it starts from where I grew up. I was blessed to grow up in a really small town in northeastern Pennsylvania. We had one stoplight. I joke, but it's not a joke. We had more cattle than humans, and so I had an interesting, growing life experience, I guess, as a kid. My family had McDonald's franchises, so I got to grow up, in this entrepreneurial family. McDonald's is an incredible organization that really knows like it's a penny business, so you learn how to steward resources wisely. The importance of, we were the only fast food restaurant in our hometown for like, the first 12 years of growing up. And so the opportunity for that to be a place for kids to get their start in the work world, and the opportunity that as business leaders, my parents had to pour into those individuals in our communities was something I got to see firsthand growing up. I was raised in the country, so I raised livestock. I had the chance to travel the country showing lambs and hogs, and that was an incredible experience as well. Sports were really important to me. I was an athlete. I was a soccer player. Had the chance to play at the University of Notre Dame after that being my goal growing up. And then my faith and academics were really important to me. And I guess I share all of that only to say that I think one of the coolest things to me in life is just seeing how sort of God works in circles and patterns throughout your life, and what you think might not be relevant for anything long term, like, ultimately comes back to be a critical part of like what he intends to do with you and through you in these different seasons that you go through in life. And so what I found growing up in those areas, right? Again, a business of athletics, of academics, of my spiritual life, and of sport, was that all those people were so different. They came from different cultures. They had different passions on their heart, but man, they all strove for excellence. And that's where I think I first started to see this element of the human spirit that longs for excellence, right, and for purpose, and for an opportunity to contribute something of greatness. And so to me, it was just an awesome experience. It doesn't matter what age you are, what demographic you are, what city you are, what color your skin is, what religion you are, but like innately we're all human. And so having the experience in all those diverse sort of settings growing up, I think was really a solid foundation as I continued to pursue graduate degrees in applied human performance psychology. And so that's really where my heart is understanding how people are wired, how we're designed to optimize and to thrive in this world. And then ultimately creating systems that are conducive for people to be their absolute best on a consistent basis. And then my heart is in sport and business. And so the fact that I have the opportunity to do this at a place like Lippert, which is such a phenomenal global publicly traded company, where we really focus on people and culture, to working with sports teams, specifically that of Notre Dame Football. It's a pretty awesome season of life right now. That's for sure.
Wow.
That was a
Amazing.
nutshell.
There was a lot packed in there. When you think about it, what's amazing, and I've really come to appreciate this about you, if we've gotten to know each other and share conversations back and forth, is you have really figured out how to take this innate passion that you have for understanding that every single person is made for a specific purpose, that they have gifts, talents, abilities, things to contribute, and that most of us are living below our potential, that we are not living up to the performance and the level of capabilities that are within us, and then applying them. And obviously that comes from your drive as an athlete and all of these things. But then you've been able to take all of that and really step back and say, let me understand how the mind, the heart work, tie that all together. You've built obviously your doctor around that. And then to walk into a place like Lippert, which is in itself an incredible story, because there's a lot of companies out there that are great examples of what good looks like. And people are like, well, it's easy to do that. Purpose, performance, leadership development, culture space in a small company. But Lippert's a publicly traded, multi-billion-dollar company with almost 12,000, maybe more than 12,000 employees at this point in time. And you've taken all of this and been able to apply it in this very fertile ground. And it is changing hearts, minds, and lives every day.
Yeah, it's pretty special. And I certainly don't have it figured out. There's so much more to learn and so many, incredible people out there doing amazing work that we can continue to glean from. And I'll tell you what, I've been blessed with just some incredible mentors in my life that have continued to help me understand, like contextualize learning, right? Because to understand is one thing, but to apply that understanding, I think, is another. And so, I think as leaders, we need to be stewards of leadership and learners of leadership. And again, the mentors and the people that you have around you that can really shape your thinking. I've been such a critical part to, like you said, being able to apply this, because it's one thing to know it and that's cool. But like, quite frankly, if we can't figure out how to use it to make a positive impact in the world, then I don't know what value it actually has. And so again, to be able to have been mentored by people who think in pragmatic terms, but also want to understand some frameworks and science and theories behind it. But then also to partner with amazing colleagues that I get to in sport and business that want to apply it, that want to change lives and figure out how to be innovative and cutting edge and all of those things it's invigorating for sure.
So good. So good. Let's talk about actual application. And you know what, I kind of want to, initially I want to say, let's start with Lippert, but I'm curious because I can't stop helping but looking at the football helmet behind you. I need to understand. Talk to me first about applying this, right, within sports from an individual level, how this applies and how you do that at Notre Dame. And then we'll talk about organizationally, culturally, and how that applies within a context like Lippert.
Yeah. So, I think before I go specifically in what's happening at Notre Dame, just whether it's sport or business, or it doesn't matter who I'm working with, when we think about cultural transformation, the way I like to think about how to approach that and tackle it is what I like to call like a top down, bottom up, and culturally relevant approach. So top down being the senior most leader, really taking ownership, extreme ownership over the direction of the culture, over the vision, over the mission, over the core values, and really articulating those elements. Because whether you're a small team or a massive organization, if you don't have a clear vision, you're not going to have clear results, right? And so clear vision, clear results, fuzzy vision, fuzzy results. And so you need to be able to articulate that very clearly so that your people can start to wrap their head around it and continue on the trajectory that you're trying to lead them. So that's sort of the top down concept. And then the bottom up concept is we've got to get this like into the hearts and minds and hands of the people on the front lines, whether that's your athlete or whether that's your frontline team member in whatever your business is. So that they can taste and see that there's something special here, that there's good here, that man, I could get excited about this and follow in this way. And then culturally relevant, right? So whether it's Lippert in a manufacturing environment, or whether it's a football environment, or whether it's a family environment, like you're going to have to make it culturally relevant. And when you do, now all of a sudden it becomes really salient to the people that are within that system. And so as you go top down, bottom up, and culturally relevant, what happens is you basically construct you compress the entire system, right? And then anybody within it who might be on the fence or, isn't sure if it's going to work, they have a choice, right? They can either get on board or they get off board. And I've been able to experience both of those, of people who are like, man, this isn't going away. Oh, this actually is awesome. The only reason I couldn't get involved early on is because I was hurt or broken from something else, right? And scared. But now I see this is real and I want to be a part of that. So they get on board. Or people that are like, man, I'm not about that. And then they leave, which is a benefit to everybody involved, right? And so again, in both contexts, that's always a framework that I use when I go in there. And so with that being said, the first month that I worked with Coach Kelly, it was just him and I one-on-one. of diving into what is a high performance system and culture, and what does that mean and look like, and what are some of the foundational elements of sports psychology? How might we integrate that to the guys, but also how could we integrate these concepts into just how we construct the program? Everything from, deciding what our t-shirts look like at practice, to ensuring that, when they walk through the doors, the signage is on point, to when they go to mass, it's relevant to what we're talking about and reiterating, the concepts that we're teaching. And so, work with him from sort of that organizational design standpoint and cultural development standpoint. And then also just mindset training with our student athletes. So we have a foundational mental performance training program that we take all of our new athletes through. And then, every week we have Mondays and Fridays, we've got Mental Monday and Focus Friday, and have a quick little mental minute for them to, again, the brain is not a muscle in the scientific sense, but it functions like a muscle in the extent that the parts of it that we use grow and get stronger, and the parts of it that we don't get weaker. And so, everything that we do is meant to help our guys get these mental reps around, who we know they are as individuals, and then, what they're trying to accomplish in the world around them.
So good. And I think none of us get enough mental reps in. You can't get enough mental reps in. One of the most powerful visuals that I have seen, I know that when we were this is actually the second time that you've been on this live cast. The first time was when you were on with Jason Lippert back in October, when we were actually in Indiana. To this date, it's the only episode of this that we've done live and on site. I still can't stop thinking about that trip. It was amazing. But I'll never forget, you were sharing stories that you had about actually what some of those mental reps look like, not just in contextually, but like in the moment. And there's this picture that it's to me, you said something, it's the epitome of leadership for me. And you said these words: speaking life into your players. And there's this picture of you literally grabbing a football player by the helmet, and you're like staring in his eyes. I remember you telling me the story of kind of like what was going on through his mind and where he needed to be in that place. And when you think about leadership, when you think about everything that you just said and you visualize all of that, one of the biggest opportunities that I think that we have when it comes to purpose, when it comes to performance, are these mental rep moments, right? Of speaking life into others.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's huge. Our thoughts are really important. I think people think thoughts are just these ephemeral things that float around the air and don't matter. But what we know is that, our thoughts affect our emotions, which affect our physiological response, which ultimately dictates how we perform in the moment, right? Whether that performance is showing up to an important conversation with your significant other, or, executing, a key play in sport, or closing a deal in business. And so that all starts with our thoughts. But when we take our thoughts and we speak them, now they become words, right? And words are powerful, and words can either speak life or speak death into people, into systems, into organizations, into relationships. And so, as leaders, I think, one of the things I think is just so critical is that we are incredibly mindful of the words that we're saying to ourselves, first and foremost, and then to those around us, because again, it has the power to lift up or to destroy, and either way. And that's why, I love it when leaders, come, they're like, well, I'm just old school, and I'm like, okay, Mr. Old School, do you like winning? Like, do you want to be successful? Because I think that's what you mean when you say I'm old school, right? And so they're like, of course I want to win. I was like, okay, well then you have to change your language, because here's what we know about how humans operate and how they operate at their highest potential. And so don't talk to me about winning and how much you want to be successful if you refuse to change how you communicate to your people. And so I mean, here's the thing. Not a lot of people know a lot about brain science. So when I get on that kick, they don't really know what to say.
Love it. So good. So good. But it's so true. And that's what I love about, how you guys have applied that at Lippert, because a lot of companies could look at an organization like Lippert and say, well, this is an old school company, right? I mean, they're incredibly profitable. They got a lot of, they make all these RV parts. They do all this stuff and everything. And that's all great. But what most people don't know is there is this incredible, impactful movement of business as a force for good that is being championed at that organization, because there has been a buy-in from leadership to communicate differently than many who are old school or in the traditional sense would seem prudent at a company of that size. And that is why, I mean, that, and you're leading that team, you're leading that charge, you're leading that team, and really those initiatives there.
Yeah. And I mean, really, Jason Lippert's leading it. Ryan Smith is leading it. John Reese is leading it. Jim Menefee is leading it. Like our operational leaders, April Klein is leading it. Scott Miner's leading it. Brian Hall is leading it. These are all of our executive team. And I think that that's one of the things is I have the opportunity to steward my team and to think about some of these things, but ultimately, the leaders that are leading the business are the ones that need to lead the cultural charge, not your leadership person, right? I mean, I was trained by Dr. Rick McGuire at Missouri, and he was a head track and field coach there for 27 years, started the sports psychology program there, started the sports psychology program for USA Track and Field. And, he taught us very early on, listen, sports psychology best happens to and through the coach, because we're only with them for a short amount of time. And if then they go to the coach and everything you do gets undone, then it's not going to be sustainable, right? And so we need to work with the coaches to make sure that they're the ones reiterating that. I have the same belief about leadership. Leadership development best happens to and through the leader, not to and through somebody else. We're here as resources. And so I say that because, what's special about Lippert is that we've got leaders who are committed to the leadership and cultural journey. And that's why it is alive and well and thriving and growing, and certainly not perfect, because again, when you get a lot of humans in one place, I mean, you get one human in a place and you've already got error, right? Imagine 12,000 of us out there trying to do this. It's not perfect. We don't claim that it is. But what I think is special about Lippert is, in general, I think that people shy away from conversations of what is my identity? What is my purpose? How do we become a contributing organization to this world? Because they're these really big questions that you think there aren't actually answers to. And I think the grandiosity of it makes people not engage. When in the reality of it is, if we would only seek the answers to those questions, guess what? We find them. And it doesn't have to be understood all at once. It just needs to be discovered one step by one step, by one moment by one moment. And I think that, again, that's the beautiful part to me about Lippert and why it's so fun to be there, is because Jason has incredible vision and our leaders have incredible vision and they demand a lot. But at the end of the day, they want to know, are we taking steps? Are we making progress? This is awesome. What's our next step? What's our next step? And I think, from a mental performance standpoint, if we can learn to shrink the game, it gives our brain the belief that, okay, we can do that. We might not be able to eat the whole elephant, but I could take one bite, right? And then once you take one bite, you're like, oh, then I go here for the next bite and here for the next bite. And then you have this awesome idea and you come up with the next two bites, And so, that's really how I think leadership and culture and high performance really work, is what's the vision? And then what's the next step? Then the next step. And then it's sort of revealed to you along the way. And man, that is a fun journey to be on.
So good. I love how you started that segment by immediately shining the spotlight on your team and on the leadership team and those at the helm at Lippert. And they truly are, I keep using this phrase, an example of what good looks like, but they truly are. I mean, Jason Lippert, every time that I've had a chance to talk with him and he shares this out there, of his vision and his story of background of, how I'm captivated by, they were marching towards becoming $1 billion company and they were kind of chasing this dollar sign, this mile mark. And then he did. And then he said, but what's next? 2 billion, 3 billion? We're just a smaller fish in a bigger pond. How do we do something more significant, not just successful? And then the story behind him reading, the Dream Manager. And then you guys actually not just reading a book, but actually implementing dream coaching and slowing down and saying, listen, you know what? It's great that we did $1 billion in RV stuff and all that. But the most important responsibility that we have as leaders to steward are our people. Who are we helping them become? And there are so many companies that are like, yeah, I'm bought into that conversation, but I'm just going to hire an Amber Selking to come and run that department. They're going to be my VP of leadership and culture because I'm old school. I got to focus on this stuff. Newsflash, unless it starts with the leader, as you just said, unless the CEO is casting the vision, unless the leadership team is bought in and saying, listen, yes, $1 billion in business, RV partial success, all that stuff is great. But we need to shift our focus. Our vision is, who are we helping our people become? And are we moving them forward each and every single day? And is everybody a part of that and on board? And then exactly what you just said, condensing the game and saying, let's move forward here. I mean, there are a lot of companies out there that are doing a lot of great things.
Mm-hmm.
But what you just articulated visually and what is actually happening top down and in between at Lippert is game changing.
Yeah. And what I think is also just really, really critical as we think through how we go about doing this in sort of a pragmatic basis too, is like I think part of Jason's heart is, okay, we want to do this and we want to do this really well. But guess what? Our vision is to change the world. And this isn't like the reason I'm at Lippert is because I launched my own consulting company, right? A Selking Performance Group, because I wanted to work with companies to do these things. And I didn't think there was any other company that was actually doing it. And so that wanted to change the world. I remember when I was 12 years old, I used to lay in bed and pray, Jesus, here I am, send me. I'm already 12. I am ready to change the world. Why can't you give me a job yet? And so this has been on my heart for a minute. And when I met Jason and heard his desire, man, we want to make business a force for good in the world. We want to create a model of work, a model of business that people can look to and say, oh, that's how you do it, right? Because I get it. And I know I said this on the last live cast when Jason and I were there, but I think it's important because, people will say, the excuse I was here for leadership and culture is oh, well, you're a tech company. You can do stuff like that, or oh, you're private. You can do stuff like that. Or, oh, you're regional, you're smaller, so you can do stuff like that. But what I love about Lippert is, man, we're manufacturing, okay? Manufacturing, we're global, and we're publicly traded. So all of the excuses that I get of why people can do this or can't do it, it goes away when you look at our company. And so it's important to us to build a model that people can look to then see, one, it can be done, but then two, actually what were the steps that we took to do that? And then, through that process, we've had other companies come to us and say okay, what's the secret sauce? How are you doing it? And ultimately there's no secret sauce except everything we're talking about on a consistent basis, applied over time with diligence and a standard of excellence. Right. So we've actually launched what we call the Lippert Academy for Leadership. And it's actually an external consulting arm where we can work with other organizations to come alongside of them on their own cultural journey. We work with them to see, where are you? And these are people that might not be at all have thought about culture, just business, but recognize maybe turnover's an issue, maybe quality's an issue, maybe their leader just has a revelation like Jason had, and we got to figure out how to do this differently. So those initial formative steps on your cultural journey, or people that have been on one and they just want some fresh ideas or a new perspective. And so the Lippert Academy for Leadership allows us to do that because, again, our vision is not to just do it ourselves, which is awesome. But here's the thing. We can't change the world by ourselves. It needs you. It needs everybody listening to this live cast. It needs anybody in any part of the world that has a business, that has a team, that has a family, that has a desire to be part of the transformation that needs to happen in this world. Because newsflash, the government's not going to do it for us anytime soon. The healthcare system isn't going to do it for us anytime soon. The education system isn't going to do it anytime soon. And that's not just in our great country of the United States of America, which I love deeply, but that's globally. And so we believe that business is uniquely positioned to be a force for good in the world, because there's a lot of businesses all over the world, big, small, private, public, in all different sectors. And if we can get business leaders to start thinking differently about how they lead, right, and how they integrate their business and their cultural strategies. I'm not saying don't focus on your business, because here's the thing. If you don't make money, you're shutting your doors and your people aren't going to get taken care of. So this is about performance too. Right. But it's about taking care of your people to lead you into that. And so, again, I just got jacked up there. Sorry. I think I had 3 adrenaline rushes.
Keep going.
But with that said, I think that that's what we're excited about this academy piece, because we want to do it ourselves, but we want to help anybody else that's interested and willing to get on this journey with us. Because the world needs transformed. And we believe that we can, help leverage people towards that.
See, that's the difference. The difference is that you believe that this is possible. I think there's so many organizations out there that when we start talking out purpose and you use phrase like business as a force from good and changing the world and transformation, they see those as tools or resources or narratives to be relevant, to drive profitability, to drive business. They're almost leveraging purpose and leveraging business as a force for good and leveraging corporate social responsibility and CSR and leveraging all of these things, because if we do this, we'll be more profitable, we'll grow. But that's not your model. Your model is no. We exist, as Patrick Lencioni says. Patrick Lencioni says that the purpose of every business is to make profit. The purpose of every business is to improve the quality of human life in some way. And when you think about how many businesses there are and the transformational force on this earth that could happen if every business embraced business and its purpose the way that you just articulated it, that Lippert isn't focused on using a term like business as a force for good or corporate social responsibility or purpose as a means to grow the business. You truly believe that, hey, listen, we are a global company that's publicly traded that just happens to be blessed with a tremendous amount of resources and a huge workforce. And that if we can align everybody around that, the reason that all of this exists is because we can improve the quality of human life. We can make people better at work, at home. We can transform lives. And by transforming lives, we're transforming the world. And you guys are laser focused on that. It's just not a position of leverage. It truly is a mission. And the growth, the performance, and the profitability is all a byproduct of you guys doing that well.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? So our qualities improve because when you keep people longer, your retention goes up, your quality gets better, our innovation's gotten better because people are coming up with new ideas, right? When they've been there for a while and they get the hang of stuff, your safety goes up, mental and emotional health goes up. All of those sort of business metrics that we look at are improved when your people stay longer. And again, you might have high tenured people, but are they really engaged too, and so really can you tap back into that human spirit, because there's nothing more powerful than that, whether you're in, again, manufacturing or sport or in family. And so again, when you create a good system for people to flourish in, it's pretty spectacular what people can do and who they can become, right?
And that's the end game. I mean, the greatest measurement of purpose is who we help others become. And you guys have shown that over and over again. I mean, I've lost count of how many different business coaches, leadership coaches, and personal coaches that you guys have hired on staff at Lippert to have available to your team. But honestly, you guys are laser focused on who you're helping others become. And the whole RV industry side of Lippert is really just an engine and a means to continue to fuel this greater mission of transforming people, transforming hearts and minds, and championing business as a force for good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Our chief sales officer, Andy Murray, spectacular man, incredible leader. And he's been with Lippert. Well, I don't know what his tenure is. All of our guys are like, I don't even know if any of them broke 50 yet, and they've all had like 20 years of experience at Lippert. So our tenure is incredible. But he's been here for a while, and that was something that he says often when he's speaking to his team. He's like, listen, like the sales team's this tip of the sword, like the tip of the sword of getting new business, of growing our business. And he said, and it's not because I want to make more money. It's because I want to have a bigger force for good in the world. I want to acquire more companies so that we can have more people a part of our family. I want to get more customers in our door so that we can grow our business internally, but also so that we can touch new customers, right? And so the tip of the spear for him, I mean, it's like re-injected him with a whole new like energy towards his role and his purpose. Because again, we all go through this, like we're in the job, what are we doing? This is good. Okay. And then, eventually it gets to a point of like, okay, what's next? Right. And when you can reshift that conversation around what's next to, man, maybe it's not anything different. Maybe it's just what I'm doing differently or with a different angle of intent, how it can just, again, breathe life into how you show up every day and how you go about your business. And it's been really awesome to watch Andy do that for himself and his own career and passion he has, but also then how he inspires his team to live with that sort of purpose and vision and mission as well.
So good. It's like he made the leap that and is so critical for this space of, I mean, yes, we talked about profitability, performance, all of that is important. You need to do that to keep doors open to make a difference. But there's a difference between measuring things in terms of dollars and measuring success in terms of dollars and measuring it in terms of impact. And
Yeah.
as a chief sales officer, he's made that leap of, instead of just measuring things in dollars as a chief sales, measuring it in impact. The more we grow, the greater an impact that we can make internally and externally.
Yeah. And he's always been an incredible leader and a mindful leader and a person-based leader, but it's so cool just like for him, for anybody, it's like when something clicks or like the right words come together to make it like make total sense into how you're operating and how you're showing up. It's really cool to see that in him and in so many of our leaders, right? Whether it's a simple analogy somebody gives that helps it click or just a realization that they have. So it's been super fun. And then you mentioned, our team. Leadership and culture at Lippert is more than just my team, right? Because like I said, it's happening every day, day in and day out at every corner of the world where we have people. But our teams are here specifically just to guide the journey, right? And to be beacons of that. And this is what we get to come to work every day solely focused on, right? Leaders have like our operations leaders. And when I say operations, I mean our manufacturing leaders, but also like our functional leaders, whether you're in finance or accounting or HR or IT or supply chain, right? Like you have to also think about all the other variables in the business area that you're leading. And so, and culture is one of those things. But for us, like that's our main focus. So we have a leadership development team, a personal and professional development team, a philanthropy team, a corporate training team, and then our academy. And so those 5 teams sit under our umbrella. We are in the process of bringing on some new personal and professional development coaches. So if anybody's interested out there, please send me a message. We're actually hiring a ton of people in all different areas. So if you are interested in learning more about our company or think your skill set might be applied, again, we're huge. So we've got all these different functional expertise, but feel free to shoot me a direct message on LinkedIn and let me know what your thoughts are, what your interest, because it's, and here's the thing. To keep the culture alive and growing, you have to hire the right people. You have to hire people that this is their DNA already, right? Not that we're at a stage in our journey now where we're not looking to hire somebody and like hope they get it and come around in the next 5 years. Like we're at that stage where we want people that when you hear us talk about who we are and what we're trying to accomplish, your heart flutters, right? You get like, holy cow, I got to be a part of that. Like, I want to know more. Like those are the types of people that we're looking for. And again, when you hire well, that's what can keep this big engine and this culture growing and thriving.
So good. So good. And the fact that you're growing at the level that you are just continues to be a testimony of everything that you shared on our live cast today. And I know that in just a matter of a few weeks, you and members of your leadership team will be driving in a few hours from South Bend or from Northern Indiana and coming to the Purpose Summit. You're going to be speaking at the Purpose Summit. And yesterday we finalized the agenda, and I am so excited. In fact, we saw kind of like where your talk fits in with some of the others. I'm not going to spill the goods here, but like I literally leaped out of my shoes. I lost my mind when I saw the impact of what's going to happen. So I'm excited for you to be up here to transform lives in just a few weeks. I'm excited that there's so many people part of your team that are making the trip to spend the entire week here in Michigan for the summit, along so many other thought leaders and speakers and authors that'll be converging for those 3 days. And speaking of authors, you have a book that'll be coming out soon. And you've said many, many times in this episode that this really is a mental game. Things have to click. And the title of your book coming out is Winning the Mental Game. I can't wait to read it. Oh my gosh. I am like jacked. I can't wait till it comes in the mail. Talk to us as we kind of wrap up here, about the book. Just give us a little sneak peek into the book and the title and your message behind that.
Yeah. So the title and subtitle are the Winning the Mental Game, the playbook for building championship mindsets. So, about 10 years ago, I built a foundational mental performance training program that really looks at how the brain works, how it impacts how we show up, and then, giving people tools and strategies that they can actually use to train their mind and their emotions to show up as the best version of themselves on a consistent basis. So, I've been applying this program for the last 10 years. Last year was a weird year with COVID. And so with football being down in the summertime, I thought, what else would I do with my evenings if I wasn't spending them at football? Why not write a book? So took that opportunity in the evenings of last summer to dive into that and really put put to pen in a book format those foundational plays. So the 8 mental plays that go into a mental game. And again, it's laced with some stories from sport and business, and then also some of that practical mindset training. Brings you the science. It brings you the stories of people and their journeys personally and professionally, and then also some championship mindset training for people to embark on. So we don't have an exact release date yet, but it'll be out sometime this fall, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with the world.
I can't wait to read it. Winning the Mental Mind Game, a playbook for champion mindset. It's going to be so powerful. It's something that we all, regardless of whether you're in business or in sports or whatever, like life is a mind game. It really, really is. Every day, you either move forward or you move backwards. It's a matter of choices, and it's a matter of the game that you play in your mind. And that book is so needed, especially now more than ever. So thank you for taking the time to pour your evenings into that work, because I know it is going to transform hearts and minds. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much, Davin. I appreciate your support.
Absolutely. And I know that the summit is just a few weeks away. And so as we wrap up here, for those of us that can't wait, to hear more insight and inspiration from you in the coming weeks, if this was the last message that you were going to give today, and I'm listening to this, what is one thing that you would have to say to those listening to be able to win that mental game, to be able to identify and fully fulfill and live out the purpose that they're created for?
Yeah, I guess I would say never leave excellence to chance. I think there's too many of us that have foregone the personal responsibility and accountability and choice and control, and therefore power that we have to transform our own lives. Like, we can't wait for somebody else to do that for us. I already said the government's not going to do it. The healthcare system isn't going to do it. The educational system isn't going to do it. Your pastor isn't going to do it. You need to take responsibility for your own life. And that starts with winning the mental game and winning in your mind first. And again, understanding that you can control your thoughts and you can choose which thoughts you're going to hold on to and which ones you're going to release, because they don't align with truth about who you are, who you are, and who you've been brought to be in this world. And so I think if I had anything to say, like don't give up the power that we've been given as human beings to make a choice and to transform not only our own lives, but those in our sphere of influence as well.
So good. So good. Amber, so grateful for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for championing what truly good looks like when it comes to business as a force for good, when it comes to challenging ourselves to be better every single day, to make a choice to live out the purpose that we're created for. I'm so grateful for you, for your work, for your leadership, and for the impact that you're making.
Thanks, Devin. I appreciate it. It was an honor to be with you today.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all ours. And for those of you who are listening, we got the pleasure of spending time with Dr. Amber Selking today, the VP of Leadership and Culture at Lippert, mental performance coach at Notre Dame Football, upcoming author of the book, Winning the Mental Game, a playbook for championship mindsets. And I'll tell you what, if you are going to be attending the summit in May, you're in for a treat when you hear her share even more there. But in the meantime, follow her on LinkedIn, follow her on all her channels, and listen, take the words that she said today and don't just walk away from this live cast and say that sounded great. Apply them to yourself, apply them to your life, apply them to your business, and be a part of this mission of business as a force for good, and each of us fulfilling our purpose as humans in this world that so desperately needs us. Amber, thank you again so much. I look forward to seeing you and your team at May at the Purpose Summit.
We can't wait to be there. All right. We'll see y'all soon.
We'll see you all next time on the Finding Purpose Livecast.